As I'm going through the Sega Genesis library, I'm reminded that while retro gaming definitely has its perks, old games are not without their issues. And one issue that was sadly very common in retro games is a live system. And because it was so common in games at this time, I'm just gonna rant about it for a bit. Look, I don't have anything against hard games. Make your game as hard as you want. As long as the controls are good, the rules are clear, and the player is given the tools they need to overcome each challenge, high difficulty isn't the problem. The problem is when a game just wastes your time, and that's all that a live system does. If I've already demonstrated that I can overcome a challenge, don't make me do it again just because I had trouble with the next challenge. This garbage is not testing the player's skill, all it's doing is testing their patience. It's a regrettable blight that really brings down otherwise perfectly fine games, and is one issue that I find hard to look past. Some people might not understand why it's such a big deal, but let's take a look at two different games, one with a live system and one without. Let's start with the game without one, Super Meat Boy. This game is super hard, with some of the Dark World challenges being freaking insane. You will die so many times it's not even funny. But the game never feels unfair because none of the levels are too long, and when you die, you just have to start the level you're currently on again. So you can die and die and die, but you always know that victory is only seconds away, and when you finally do beat it, that's a step of permanent progress. It feels so invigorating once you finally overcome the challenge, until you go to the next level, and die, and die, and die, and die. The point is, the game is challenging without being frustrating because the penalty for failing isn't too harsh. You can get away with a hard, even insane challenge as long as the player feels like it's up to them whether they succeed or fail. Now, let's take a look at a game that does have a live system, namely Castlevania. Now, despite the dodgy controls, this game is solidly designed for the most part, and most of the challenges are tough but fair, with the obvious exception of the hall before the Grim Reaper and the Grim Reaper himself. But the problem is that the live system really disrupts the flow of the game. I worked hard, I overcame the challenges, and now I made it to the boss. Now I just need to learn his attack patterns and how to avoid— damn it. Oops, I ran out of lives, now I have to start the level all over again. But why? I already proved that I can overcome the challenges leading up to the boss. Why are you making me go through them again? Fine, I'll just make my way to the boss again and make a little more headway. Oops, I died again. And again. What do you know, I'm out of lives. Guess I have to start the level all over again. Oh, come on! You see what I mean? If the game just let me start at the point right before the boss once I reach it, and let me keep trying to fight the boss again and again until I succeeded, that would keep the pace up and feel rewarding, and every death would make me all the more determined to try again until I win. But by kicking me back to the start of the level every time I make one too many mistakes, it kills the pacing and just makes the game feel frustrating and unfair. Now, I can understand why live systems were so common. In the arcade days, it was a way to get kids to pay out more quarters in order to keep them playing a game. So it makes sense, in a slightly evil sort of way. And while home consoles like the NES weren't able to fleece you for more quarters, there was only so much you could fit onto an NES cartridge, so a live system helped to artificially make the game last longer. But by the time the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis came around, live systems were no longer needed. Technology had advanced to the point that games could be a decent length without the need for artificially stretching the runtime out with an annoying live system. And yet so many games still included them, because for whatever reason they had a hard time letting go of that archaic system. It's even worse when there are limited continues. At least in Castlevania, when you finally beat the boss, that is a permanent step of progress, and when you die you only have to restart the level. But some games take it a step further, and when you run out of lives and continues, you have to take the whole game again from the top. And this is just a whole other level of wasting the player's time. Oh, you made it through most of the game and are about to take on the final boss? Well, oops, you made one too many mistakes, so we're going to make you start the whole game all over again. How about no, huh? If that's how you want it, then screw your game. Thankfully, live systems have largely died out in games. In the 5th generation of gaming, while many games still had live systems, they were tweaked so that it was virtually impossible to run out of lives, and even if you did run out, there usually wasn't any major penalty, and then games went a step further and just nixed the live system altogether. One change that I for one am very thankful for. Whatever issues modern games have, live systems are not one of them. But when you turn back to older games to see if they still hold up like I'm doing, regrettably far too many otherwise excellent games have this stupid system, and in many cases it ruins what could have been a timeless masterpiece. So take note, any developers who may be listening. If you want to make a retro-style game, that's fine, as there are many aspects of retro games that are good, but a live system is not one of them, so don't even think of putting one in. So those are my thoughts on live systems. I wanted to get this out because otherwise I would end up repeating myself a lot in my reviews. Because while the Sega Genesis does have a lot of good games, I've noticed a lot of them have a stupid live system. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like what I do, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.